The coronavirus isn't gonna stop us having a bit of fun. So go and grab a cuppa, join in with the laughter with all your favorite comedy chums. They say two's company and three's a crowd, but with four you never can tell. We haven't got a clue, so we'll just assume that four's a crowd as well. Four's a crowd.
Hello, welcome to Four's a Crowd, the comedy panel show where our contestants battle it out to return next week as the victorious champions. Our losers have to go home. It's Thursday, May the 7th, day before the 75th anniversary of VE Day. Unfortunately, we can't call it victory in Europe anymore now. We have to call it victory out of Europe post-Brexit, as the country eagerly awaits Boris Johnson's relaxation of lockdown on Sunday. There's no more time for that. It's all time for Four's a Crowd. And thank you very much for joining us. So, I'd like to introduce our returning champion captain once again. Please welcome Chris Choppin.
Hello, how's it going?
Hello, Chris. How are you?
I'm good. I've hit upon a new scheme this week. You'll have noticed a lot of creative people are putting out content and asking people to tip them the price of a cup of coffee. Well, instead of that, what I'm doing is I'm asking people just to give me their bank details, and I take what I think is fair, and it's a lot less admin for people. It's great.
I like it. I am quite fresh-faced as well this week, Chris. You're looking pretty well.
Yeah, I think I've got the currently the shiniest forehead in the entire UK, so that's good, isn't it?
Well, it's nice to be sort of a champion or something. And can we bring back our returning guest competitors, who may as well be regular guest competitors this rate, Stefan and Alna?
Yeah, we are furious that we're still here.
We don't want to be here. We've made that clear.
We've made it very clear.
How's this week been, guys?
And the other team didn't play ball.
They didn't. They absolutely didn't. We've had to change our week around now because we were going to be catching up on our Pokemon reruns tonight. So instead, we've already had to do that. But this means that instead now we are overdue to make our top 20 list of best ever Eurovision songs in a spreadsheet.
That was going to be tonight. We've had to move that. So we need to go out because we need to use next Thursday to get our top 20 Eurovision done.
Yeah.
So any plans this week to try and lose on purpose?
We thought we'd just get the answers wrong.
That's as good as any. I think Simon's got that down to a T already, though, so you might be sort of hard pushed with that one.
Can I quickly point out? These are two of my best in real life friends, and I do not see them from week to week in between this. So I'm really glad it means so little to them.
Well, Chris, I see
one of the main advantages of lockdown is not having to deal with Chris, and yet this has taken that silver lining away.
Yeah.
To be fair, I am hard work.
It's no coincidence. The most you actually enjoyed the show is the only week Chris wasn't on the show when we were up here in week one when he couldn't make it. So take from now what you will. So there's our team one for this week, guys. Can we introduce our returning and unfortunately losing team captain, Simon Emmanuel?
Any chance you could do that again, Drew, but say something positive for a change, please?
Yeah, no problem. Please welcome the guy who ran away 10 minutes early because he didn't want to be a loser again, Simon Emmanuel.
It's a little bit better. Cheers, Drew. Thank you.
What happened last week, Simon?
My housemate is learning to time travel, and he accidentally went back and wiped out my timeline. So I just disappeared from the face of the earth.
So have you taken the time this week now to sort of really get on board and sort of work towards winning this week? Any sort of preparation you've been doing?
Well, I've been reading some self-help books this week. I bought 4 altogether. The first one was how to read, which came in handy for the other 3, obviously. And then the last one was Feng Shui. And the first line, it said, if you find anything stressful, just get rid of it. And I found the book quite stressful, so that's in the bin. So I think that was quite helpful.
All in all, a successful week. So who we got joining you this week, Simon, as your guest teammate?
I've got my ex-comedy business partner. We started the Oslo Comedy Club together, and he still runs it. He's a fantastic man, but he's also my comedy father. It's Paul B. Edwards.
Hey, Dan, how you doing?
Hello, Paul.
I can't help thinking there's an immediate flaw with this show in that I feel Simon's at an additional disadvantage in that this is the third week. I watched the last two, then I'm here this week, and I can't help thinking that Chris has got two people helping him rather than just one.
He's not good with numbers. He hasn't noticed.
That is observant. That is observant, Paul. It's just because Eleanor happens to live with her husband Stefan, and if you want to rope in a teammate, you can. Simon lives on his own. Have you got a wife you want to bring in on with it, Paul?
Actually, I have got a sock that has become my lodger.
If you want to have a performance-enhancing teammate, that's absolutely fine.
Oh,
Yeah,
Hey,
cheers, Ray.
Thanks,
Ray,
Ray. We agree.
Yeah.
You should.
No offense taken at all, Ray. Thank you for having our backs.
Yeah.
so it appears everybody is rooting for Simon this week, including half of the other team. So moving on to round one.
I'm not rooting for Simon.
As always, is absolutely buzzing. Quick fire points building round. Chris, what's your buzzer sound for this week?
Well, as usual, I've given this very little thought, but I was doing the NHS clap about an hour ago, so I'm going to go with clap.
Clap, not a problem at all. And Simon, will your buzzer word be?
I think because me and Paul met in Scandinavia, we're going to go for something like hey, hey. Hey, hey.
Okay, no problem at all. Round one, absolutely buzzing. Quick fire round, buzzing if you think you know the answer. If you don't, I'll pass over to the other team. Question one, who is Wales's most capped rugby union player?
Clap.
Hey,
Hey,
hey.
hey.
Chris.
Is it Owen Money?
It's not Owen Money. Paul.
Ruth Maddock.
It was Ruth Maddock, but unfortunately she's recently been passed by Alan Wynne-Jones. Question two. A top government official this week had to resign for being caught doing what?
Clap.
Hey, hey.
Chris.
Is it shagging?
Yes, I take that. He was seeing his bit on the side during lockdown when he was a man who suggested lockdown himself. Naughty, naughty.
I know it's a family-friendly show, but he's the one that did it. It's not my fault.
Yeah, when it comes to sort of hypocrisy, we can lay the word like shaggy and go through. It's not a problem. Question three. What caused two jams in Swansea this week?
What?
There's two that resigned this week. There's the other one, isn't there, who threatened that bloke who owed his dad money.
Oh, it was the shagger. Anyway, question three. What caused...
This is why Simon loses. It's a fix.
If you start bringing rules into play, it's going to be all too
Was Simon the one that owed the money?
What, sorry?
Was Simon the one that owed the money?
Look, I don't think Simon takes much threatening, to be honest. I don't think you'd have to threaten parliamentary privilege to get Simon running.
We'd be lucky if he gets to the end of the show. Okay, question three. What caused huge traffic jams in Swansea this week?
Hey, hey.
Simon.
It's a flash sale on heroin.
Hand it over to Chris.
Is it cars?
It was.
In my experience, it's usually cars.
And what were the cars doing, Chris? Where were they going?
It's normally the front ones are slower than the ones at the back, and it all gets jumbled up on the road. I'm not a scientist, but they get sort of bunged. They can't get through the space where they're trying to get to the places.
I think I know this.
I know this.
But
Stefan, go on.
you can't make me tell.
You don't want to get it
Near
right.
our house.
It was.
Hey, hey. Can I take the point?
Yes, you can, Simon. 1 point for
It
Simon
was,
for that one.
it was KFC.
KFC reopening, the biggest event of the last 8 weeks in Swansea, by the looks of it. Question
What
four.
time do they shut?
9 o'clock, I think, KFC. So it's shut now, Chris, sorry.
Fine.
We get a pre-show next week. Question five. What is today's date?
Clap.
It's not a, but no, it's not a date, it's a prune.
Chris?
Clap. I'm
Chris?
gonna, given that I heard you say it at the start of the show, I'm going to go with Thursday, May the 7th. And if that is not the answer, then you are a liar.
No, it's March the 68th. Quite a lot. Name the unlikely duo to reach number one this week with You'll Never Walk Alone.
Hey, hey.
Clap.
Simon?
It's a Sugar Puff Monster and Mahatma Gandhi.
It isn't, Simon.
We hand that over to Stefan and Eleanor.
Is it
I'm pretty
Captain?
sure I know this. It's the surviving Chuckle Brother and Deck.
No, it was Captain Tom Moore and glory-grabbing fame hunter Michael Ball.
Rat.
I was going to guess Captain Tom Moore, but I thought it was with comic creator Alan Moore as well.
So
after
round
Family Guy.
are an epic Simon 1 and Chris, Stefan and Eleanor 0.
Yes!
Come on. Simon, run off now.
Did I not get a point for shagging?
No.
It doesn't work like that. All right,
You never do. You never do, mate.
My girlfriend has ruled out a points-based system. That's the only reason.
It's out of 100, Chris. Okay, so round 2 is what did Idris do next? A favorite round of the show. Idris Elba is often touted to be the next James Bond, the next Doctor Who, the next Queen of the royal family, perhaps. So our teams will now suggest what they think Idris should do next. This is an audience participation round. Audience, please vote in your comments who you think should win. I'll hand it over to Chris, Simon, and Eleanor first. You can go first, guys. Chris, what do you think Idris should do next?
I think Idris Elba should be the next Tommy Robinson. I don't like the bloke they've got doing it at the moment. They call me a snowflake, but I don't agree with some of the things that he says, and I think it would be a new way to go with the role, to have a nice kind of woke Tommy Robinson, sort of really woke, forward-thinking, right-wing nut job we can all get behind.
Yeah.
Here's a thought, though. If Professor Lockdown and his secret mistress is out of a job, we need someone new to decide on lockdown rules.
There is an opening.
Yeah.
I think that could be Idris.
Yeah.
He'd be good at that. He would be good at that. Yeah, definitely. I could see Idris sort of advising Boris Johnson on what to do regarding lockdown. But dressed as Luther, I think would work best.
Yeah.
It's crucial.
Simon, what are we thinking?
I think that he should open an old people's home, call it Idris's Elders, and he should be giving them all sort of Bond-themed nicknames. Like there should be one woman, Margaret, and her name is 0070. And then there's Austin Martin's got bad knees, just stuff like that. That's what I'd enjoy.
Paul, what do you think Idris should do next?
I think he should open a cafe with Quasimodo's missus that specialises in a particular dessert popular in the 1970s and call it Idris Elder and Esmeralda's Peach Melbas.
For excellent suggestions, as always. So, leave it up to the audience. Audience, please vote who you think should be the winner of that round for their suggestion of what Idris should do next.
Can
If
I
it
just
isn't
say
me, I'm going when Simon
thank
does
you
it.
to Susie for calling me fit in the
Ray is
comments.
slightly behind there. Ray is not voted on this round. He's put
I'm really glad,
Absolutely fine.
you know her, Eleanor, because that's a real fine line. I just thought it might be a perv.
Yeah, no, I know her.
Okay.
I mean, she is a perv.
She
but-
is
Drum
also-
roll, please. The audience have voted. The winner for this round is Simon.
Yeah.
So the scores after round 1 and 2 are Simon and Paul 4, Chris, Eleanor, and Stefan 0.
Like taking
Yes.
candy from a baby.
We're having it.
Working.
Okay, our round 3 is Whose Life Is It? I will read out a humorous, perhaps a shocking story from one of our contestants' lives to the other team. It could be myself as a red herring also. You have to guess as teammates who does the story belong to and whose life is it? Okay, Chris and Eleanor and Stefan, sorry, you go first because you're seconds this week. Our story from Simon's team, or possibly myself, is when I was 12, I developed bacterial meningitis and gastroenteritis at the same time. This meant I couldn't lift my head off a pillow and couldn't stop going to the toilet. I lay in hospital isolation for several days with a cardboard toilet underneath my bottom. The nurses were very good in changing this cardboard toilet, but one day one of the nurses forgot and left me there for several hours. She came back to find me in what will be described as an absolute horrific mess. She dropped the bowl of onion soup she was bringing me, which I wouldn't have really thanked her for, anyway on the floor, and ran away screaming. It's a funny story, it's a true story, but is it myself, Paul, or Simon?
Oh my God. Oh, well, poor you.
Also a horrific story.
I feel harrowed just listening to that story.
Which part was the most harrowing for you, Eleanor?
Really?
The wasted onion soup?
For some time.
Yeah. Do you know what? Next Thursday, I'm doing 2 fewer claps for the NHS.
I think they should be making their toilets out of renewable materials. This is...
Yes, that is the thing to focus on. That is the takeaway.
I've got to focus on something other than the grim horror of it all, haven't I?
I don't know. Who do we think this is likely to be?
The thing is,
bacterial meningitis. When did the vaccinations for those start coming in?
Oh, I mean, I don't know, but what an interesting question.
Because I remember having a meningitis jab.
I did.
In school.
Yeah.
So which of the people we're guessing from is older than us?
I think only Paul is older than us.
That's just ageist.
We're like wizened, ancient, like trolls.
I also think Simon looks too happy for this ever to have happened to him.
Yeah,
that's true. Actually, there is a darkness in the soul of Paul B. Edwards.
Yeah.
I think we found an origin story for the superhero.
The origin story.
It is true.
Okay, Chris, as the captain, any final decisions?
I think we're going with Paul B. Edwards.
No, go with Simon.
No, we're going with Paul B. Edwards.
I know he's trying to win it now.
Person who the story belongs to, please reveal yourself.
It was me, and it was described as looking like I'd had a brown death.
I'm so sorry for you.
Well, and I'm very upset about the age bit, though, because I don't think you have your meningitis jab until after the age of 12. So that was actually nothing to do with it.
In fairness, that was.
You are just ageist.
Yeah.
Second story this evening is pitched for Simon and Paul. Does it belong to myself, Chris, Stefan, or Eleanor? We couldn't really afford.
He's really old.
There we go. We couldn't really afford musical instruments growing up, but my secondary school had a policy that they'd pay for lessons as long as you joined the school orchestra. Unfortunately, though, there was no system in place to make sure you were competent on the chosen instrument before you performed. I started learning the flute in year 7 and found out the hard way when rehearsing with the band that I play on my own. I only to find out before a medley from the Phantom of the Opera when I had barely mastered my first scale. But being very shy 11-year-old out of my depth, I didn't want to admit to it, so I kind of played along and mimed the tune. I thought I'd quietly drop out after a month or so, but the concerts were arranged and I suspected to be in there. There was just never seemed to be the right time. So I ended up miming in orchestra for a whole year. After my final performance, music teacher told me I was the best person in the orchestra.
I actually did something similar with the cheerleader squad. I made a complete fool of myself. It was shouldn't have done that. It looked ridiculous. I see. This is. I'm just trying to work out who out of all these people have the brassness about them to mime being in an orchestra for a whole year. That's brilliant. Like and the person conducting, did they not notice there were big parts of the song missing? Like, and every single song. That's astounding they didn't notice. Who do you reckon, Paul?
Well, I think you can be a lot more scientific about this. I think I'll explain why I consider it has to be Chris shortly, but what I feel is that if Stefan picked up a flute, he'd be too busy running off into the woods like the fawn that he is. And I don't think in any way at all he'd be able to stand still in an orchestra with his cloven hooves. That's why we're all from the waist up, with his cloven hooves and his flute and his nonsense. And I reckon Chris would have been quite happy to mime for a year and take the plaudits quietly to himself.
I mean, I can't argue with that logic. We're going to go for Chris.
Did my poor reading of the story give away that it wasn't me this week? So, final answer from Simon's team. I think it was Chris. Person whose story belongs to, please reveal yourself.
It was me.
No!
Oh, no, hold on a minute. This is where it all goes wrong because we've got a 1 out of 4 rather than a 1 out of 3. I wasn't including you actually as being one of the potential contestants there. Clearly, what? Right, don't tell me you're going to give him 5 points, then Simon's going to go missing for 10 minutes.
Well, I thought you would have been in the story that the person in the story desperately wanted to go to something they didn't want to be doing, just like Eleanor is with this quiz show that she's been dropped in.
Yes.
You know, it could well be that she's miming right now, and Stefan just.
That's right, Ray.
We don't know.
Ray's absolutely right. We are the worst.
Yeah.
So after that round, Paul and Simon 4, Chris, Eleanor, and Stefan 3.
Oh, right, okay, we're still in lead.
So you're straight back in it. Shocking.
Okay, round 4 this week is called Take in the Myth. I will read out 4 different mythological creatures or ideas from around the world. You have to decide if they've been made up by me or actual myths, which are actually just made up by somebody else anyway. Our first myth this week is for Chris, Stefan, and Eleanor. The Scottish Nuckalevy is a skinless centaur that lives in the Highlands with a snout like a pig, and it has terrible breath, and if it breathes on you, it can kill you. It also lives in the sea. Is it a myth that I've made up, or is it a real Scottish myth that is actually just made up anyway?
I mean, I'm pretty sure that is a real Scottish myth.
Really? But it's really gross.
Yeah, I know.
It's too much. Surely that is too much stuff. Like a centaur is already a myth.
Oh no!
Oh, no, that's a form.
Doesn't really go into this kind of fairy mythology. Like,
But this is a centaur that has no skin.
No skin.
And a centaur has like a horse's body, and this lives in the ocean, which is no place for a horse.
Oh no!
Unless this is some sort of water polo based myth.
Or seahorse.
And good point. All right, yeah.
No, he's going against it. Yeah, let's go with Chris. Yeah, you're totally right. Yeah, we agree.
Oh, now I don't know if this is some sort of elaborate double bluff, and I'm feeling very gaslit.
If it puts your mind at rest, I have no idea.
All right.
It's not nice, Chris, to be undermined by your own team so consistently.
It's quite distressing. I mean, they were holding up a sign saying they don't really want to be here, and but I was like someone in a hostage video. I was doing Morse code with my eyes, saying I find all this very hurtful. So I just don't think that. But Eleanor knows more about these things, but she might be lying. I'm going to go with Eleanor and say that it is a real thing.
It is a real myth, a real made-up myth. 2 points for Chris, Stefan, and Eleanor. Our second myth for this week is the Gulon. Sweden's Gulon, a fearsome legendary animal with the head and ears of a cat and the body of a lion. But is it a real myth, Paul and Simon, or is it a made-up myth by myself?
Hang on.
Hold on a minute. If it's got the head and ears of a cat and the body of a lion, it's got the head and ears of a cat and the body of a cat. It's a cat.
That's what I was just thinking. Unless it's got the body of a lion, which is big, and a small cat's head, which means you'd be a nightmare to buy jumpers for. That wouldn't work.
Yeah.
It would also
might do that. Like in Beetlejuice, it might have been a shrunken-headed Swedish cat.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be scared of that. I've been bit from a cat. Didn't hurt me. Like I reckon I could take that in a fight.
It would probably struggle to get enough air into its lungs and would die almost immediately after its birth.
Yeah.
So that'd be very busy tail though, so quite cute.
I like how you're rationalising it across teams as well. It's nice sort of
algorithms true. Because it's just the sort of thing the Swedish would do. Have you seen how they ruin hot dogs? It's amazing.
Okay, we're gonna go true.
True.
It's true. It's a real made-up myth, not a made-up myth. 2 points for Simon and Paul. Our third
That's
myth.
exactly what happened last week as well, I should say. You had the first 2 were true. That's what I went with.
Yeah, I do just pretty much follow the same format. Our third myth this week is for Stefan, Chris, and Eleanor.
I can tell you in advance it's false.
It's Fudakuchi Honor, a very greedy lady who eats out of the back of her head, and if she sees you and casts a spell on you, she'll make you very greedy as well. But is it a real myth or is it a made-up myth?
She eats out of the back of her head.
She does.
Or she
Yeah,
eats
she-
it in the back of her head.
Or she uses the back of her head to eat and the front of her head because she's that greedy.
Oh, she doesn't take food out to the back of her head and then eat it.
No, she puts food into both parts of her head, I believe.
I mean,
She would
obviously,
be a nightmare to take on a
the way-
date. She'd be a nightmare to take on a date because she constantly have her back to you while she like just smashes a KFC with a cranium.
I mean, it's
I
interesting. I mean, that really does. That's very telling. That at a date, a woman can be expected to be taken on by you, isn't it, Simon? KFC all the way. Now is one of the he's now the
Well,
finest
you-
victory in Swansea. So
Yeah, only if you wait 2 hours in a car, anyway. But we're going false.
Yes. Yeah.
Chris, so how does that influence the answer you want to give?
I will. Oh God, they look too pleased with themselves. So I think that it is false.
It's true, I'm afraid. It's a real made-up. Not a made-up.
We knew it.
My friends, ladies and gentlemen, and teammates.
That is
Okay,
a fantastic myth.
Our final
I love
made-up or real myth this month is for Simon and Paul. It's Pink Cowboy Hat Lady. She can be found roaming the streets of Cardiff in November, February, and March, randomly shouting, "Go on, Shane."
Right, Drew, when we started this panel show, I said, out of everything, don't bring my mother into this. And what have you gone and done? That is...
He said, hearing about her on Mock the Week, and would I lie to you? We can at least leave her off this.
I always wonder where the pink cowboy hat sort of thing comes from. Do you reckon back in the day when cowboys were having shootouts, they were sort of standing facing each other, and one just went, okay.
They bring it back from their holiday to the Pink Ranch.
What do you reckon, Paul?
I'll take you back to the Pink Ranch.
I don't think you can under lockdown, Paul.
Wait,
Didn't be able to do it anytime soon.
Paul, are you a government advisor, a scientific government advisor?
Yes.
Yeah, well, you can then, Chris, and by the looks of it, yeah.
Either way, I'm going to hear those words as I try and fall asleep tonight, so that's good.
Marvellous.
So, Simon, what are you thinking?
What do you reckon, Paul? True or false? Pink hat cowboy
look,
lady.
I think we've got to work on the basis that whether we know or not, there's been 3 truths in a row. And it's unlikely there'd be 4. And even though this is the most plausible of the whole lot, because there are thousands of women in Cardiff in the early hours of the morning who've been on hen do's and what have you, running around in pink cowboy hats, shouting all sorts. So,
Which isn't on, really, is it? They should be at home right now.
well, they should, yeah, but you know, it's wild country. They've got cowboy hats on, you know, it's a frontier town. But I think we have to say false because there have been 3 truths in a row.
Okay, false.
Nothing to do with the story itself. I'm just saying false.
It is false. Pink Cowboy Hat Lady is not a myth. She's actually a real person, and we see them all the time. So the scores after
You
that.
lot knew that already, though, but I didn't. You know, because you're there, you live it. I'm just
That's true.
And isn't that punishment enough?
yeah, but still going to be stuck hard. And Chris, I'm still going to take you to the Pink Ranch.
Oh, this has been a very rewarding experience for me this half hour.
Scores heading into our penultimate round are Paul and Simon 9, Chris, Stefan, and Eleanor 6.
Whoa!
I'll get 4 next one. I'll get 4 points next time.
Okay, our final round this evening, and perhaps our favourite round, will be Almost Sound of Music, where we're joined by friends of the show, Sheep and Mash. They'll have some mixed up theme tunes for you to guess. It'll be the music from a TV theme show, mashed up with the lyrics from another TV theme show, with possibly a visual clue for you to guess. Please can we have Sheep and Mash to give us our first clue of the evening, and this will be for Chris, Stefan, and Eleanor.
Hello, yes, thank you. Here we are, Sheep and Mash, for the 4th week of Forza Crowd, here with the music round, which is called Almost the Sound of Music. Still not keen on that terrible name. But we're sticking with it. We are sticking with it. Isn't that right, Martin? Martin? Hello? Hello, can you hear me? Is it working? Martin, hello? Can Can you hear me?
Sorry,
Hello?
Mark. I didn't have my headphones in. They must have fallen out or
Can you
something.
hurry up, please?
Yeah, sorry. I was
the
in a
game
world of my
now.
own. I thought I'd left the cooker on.
Oh, you've been you all. Let's just get on with it. Anyway, here's a quick recap of the rules. We've taken two popular TV themes, smashed them together into a new theme, the lyrics from one and the tune from another. And you have to tell us what the lyrics in the tune are. Simple as that. But also, we've got a visual clue for you. Martin, do you want to explain the visual clue very quickly?
Yes, no problem, Mark. What Mark means by visual clue is that for each theme, there will be a clue that is visual. By visual, we mean it'll be a picture that might lead you in the right way on your quest to find the answer.
That is right. So keep a lookout for the visual clue. By the way, Martin, I've just realised you've got a new haircut. Did Sheila do that, or what?
No, your nan did it for me.
Excuse me?
Your nan did it for me. She used to be a hairdresser.
Why are you going round my nan's house? I've told you this before. Stop going round her house. We're in quarantine.
She needed couscous, Mark.
My nan has never needed couscous in her life. What does she need couscous for?
I don't know, but I'm glad that I couldn't find it in the end. I gave her kidney beans. Tin of kidney beans.
You are really wasting your essential shopping days, aren't you? One a week.
Who's going to stop me, Mark?
The government. Let's just get on with the first TV theme. What's she doing? Moroccan night or something? God.
Could be.
Every day when you're walking down the street, and everybody that you meet has an original point of view, and I say, hey, what a wonderful kind of day. If you can learn to work and play and get along with each other, you got to listen to your heart, listen to the beat, listen to the rhythm of the street. Open up your eyes, open up your ears, get together and make things better by working together.
Thank you very much, Sheep and Mash. So there's just Paul on screen at the moment.
That's enough for me. It's me on. Much better.
There we are, go back now. So, Sheep and Mash, thank you very much for that. The music from one TV show, the lyrics from another. Chris, Stefan, Eleanor, what are we thinking?
We've got it.
Okay.
So the music was obviously Home and Away, and the lyrics were Hey Arnold.
No, it wasn't.
Yes.
The music was Neighbours.
Nonsense.
And I think I figured out the lyrics from the picture clue, right? Because
So what was the picture? Three men carrying a bench. I was clueless.
they were carrying something heavy, and once you've carried something heavy, you might want to sit down. And if you want to sit down, one thing you can sit down on is like a bench, which is also what they were carrying. Now, a bench is like an outdoor sofa, and if you sat on a sofa, you might watch TV. And one of the things that you might watch on TV is called, I think it's called Arthur or Hey Arthur. That's the name of the show. So I've got that through the picture. I didn't really recognize the lyrics, but I got to it through the picture clue.
I said at the top that this is my favorite round of the show. This is my favorite round of the show, but that's due to the elaborate explanations you give for the pictures, Chris. They're absolutely fantastic without fail every week. So we're saying the music from Neighbours and the lyrics from Hey Arthur?
Hey Arthur.
Hey Arthur. Okay, we'll hold on to that. Let's have video 2 for Simon and Paul, please.
Now you start. It is time for theme tune number 2, which is for team number 2. Here we go, straight into it.
Well, it's cold outside, there's no kind of atmosphere. I'm all alone, more or less. Let me fly far away from here. Let me fly far away from here. Fun, fun, fun in the sun, sun, sun. I want to lie shipwrecked and comatose, drinking fresh mango juice. Goldfish shoals nibbling at my toes. Goldfish shoals nibbling at my toes. Fun, fun, fun in the sun, sun, sun. Fun, fun, fun in the sun, sun, sun. Fun, fun, fun in the sun, sun, sun. Fun, fun, fun in the sun, sun, sun.
Thank you very much, Just Sheep. That time, Mark Marsh wasn't there. So, Simon, Paul, what are we thinking? It was very, very well played. It was lovely music, lovely words, but where do they come from?
I know what the music was. I think I do. I think the music was Saved by the Bell.
Okay.
I don't know what the lyrics were, though.
If you have to pass it over, I'll figure it out from the picture.
Yeah. Well, look,
was a picture anyhow?
Not for me, no, but I already knew it. It's the answer is it's the lyrics were Friends and the music was Scooby Doo.
So now we got both people on both teams trying to lose this week.
Can I request? I really want to know how Chris got it from the picture, though.
Yeah, well, that picture, he was red, wasn't he? And he had all black bits on him. He was Darth Maul, wasn't he, from the Phantom Menace?
Oh, is it Star Wars?
And the Phantom Menace is part of the Star Wars series, and one type of a star is a red dwarf. So I think the words were red dwarf.
Okay, so Simon, what do you think the answer was?
I think the words were Red Dwarf, and I think the tune was Saved by the Bell.
Fantastic, that sounds good enough to me. Let's find out if that's the case. Match. What are the answers, please?
Even Drew's against me now.
And there we go, another week of theme tunes out of the way. How do you think you did, teams? And let's just get straight on to the answer. Enough of the small talk. So, team tune number one, which was for team number one, the lyrics were from the cartoon Arthur, which was a show about that little thing. What was he? He was an animal, but I don't know.
They say he was an aardvark, but I'm convinced he was a bear.
He didn't. Anyway, it was the show Arthur, and then the tune was the popular soap. Well, it's not so popular anymore, but it is a soap. Neighbours, which was quite popular in the 80s, I suppose.
Yeah, for a little while whilst Jason Donovan was still in it. But then he left and he wasn't popular anymore. And neither was he, really.
Neither was he, yeah. They needed each other.
That's right.
Anyway, yeah. So if you had those, you get some points, and I'm sure Drew will explain. Well done. On to theme tune number two.
And the visual clue for that one was a picture of a bench. Why a bench? I hear you saying. It was Arthur's bench from EastEnders. Arthur.
Understand the code.
I'm got a clue.
Anyway, yeah, there's a visual clue. Sorry, nearly skipped over that one. Anyway, on to theme tune number two, which was for team number two. The lyrics were from the popular sci-fi show Red Dwarf.
Yes, I knew that.
Was from Saved by the Bell, which was a show. Yeah, no, not many people. Can't even remember the characters. Anyway, if you had that, well, then you got some points. And that is it from us this week.
Whoa, you've nearly missed the visual clue again, Mark.
Do the visual clue then.
This is the fourth week of doing this. You need to focus.
Hurry up. What's the visual clue? Go on.
It was a red dwarf, as in a dwarf painted red from Doctor Who.
Well done. Really well. Doctor Who. Yeah. So if you all got your answers right, you get points. And well done. Anything else, Martin? Nothing from me? No. Okay, well, we'll see you again next week for week 5 of Forza Crowd. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. As always, Sheep and Mash. Goodbye. So it was a very successful round. Simon, you did very well in that round. Both teams put in full points and around 5 points each for that round. Well done, both teams.
You played yourself, Chris.
So, that brings us to the end of the quiz and our final scores. Our final scores this week are Stefan, Eleanor, and Chris with 11. And Simon and Paul with 14.
Yay!
I told my mum knew I could do it. She's always had faith. Yes.
We worked hard, we did it.
This is the point in the show where we say goodbye to our losing guests. And normally they start to go, but I don't know if that's the case this week, Eleanor and Stefan. Do your best sad faces to us as you wave goodbye.
Let's do back to back.
All right.
Bye, Stefan. Bye, Eleanor. Chris, you're all on your own now, mate. How does it feel to be a loser for the first time?
I've never felt more alone. I'm really going to have to think about how I conduct myself socially because clearly I'm not well liked.
Well, so you need to get thinking,
mate.
You need to get thinking for a new teammate for next week. But please, can we congratulate our winner, Simon, winner for the first time in the run of the show?
Yes, I knew bringing Paul on was a good idea.
I disagree with that. It means I've got to be there next week, doesn't it?
You've got some congratulations coming in from the audience here, Danny French.
Yes.
Cheers, Danny.
I think the international input from Paul helped a lot, Simon, this week. What do you think?
I don't think it did at all. I think all it did was freak out Chris, which may have been a factor.
And the fact that Chris gave you the answer in the final round is probably what swung it. But hey, that's the way it goes.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
It's actually all up to Simon. I didn't have a clue about that last round at all. Genuinely didn't.
Well, congratulations to our winners. Thank you very much for joining us. Well, commiserations to our losing captain, Chris Choppin. And we'll see you next week for more of Forza Crowd. Thank you very much. Good night.
Bye.